When I moved into my new place, I thought I'd scored a steal. A downtown loft with brick walls, high ceilings, and old wooden floors. The realtor called it charming with character. What she didn't mention was that it had secrets. The first 2 weeks were uneventful, though I kept hearing these odd creaks coming from the walls at night. Old building, I told myself. Nothing unusual. Then, while rearranging some bookshelves, I noticed something strange behind the drywall. An uneven outline, like a square had been carved into the surface and painted over. Curiosity got the best of me. I tapped it and heard a hollow sound. The next day, I borrowed a utility knife and carefully cut along the outline. The drywall peeled back with surprising ease, revealing a door, a small wooden door. No handle, no visible lock. It wasn't marked on any floor plan. It wasn't supposed to be there. That night, I started hearing whispers coming from the wall, and when I looked again in the morning, the door was open. The door wasn't wide, barely 3 feet tall, and the space behind it was pitch black. It looked more like a crawl space than a room. I should have sealed it back up right then, but I didn't. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and crouched down to peer inside. The air was cold. Not just basement cold, damp grave cold. The beam of my flashlight only reached about 5 feet before it was swallowed by darkness. The walls inside were stone, not brick like the rest of the building, and there were scratch marks, deep ones, along the inside of the frame, human-shaped, like someone had tried to claw their way out. I didn't go in. That night, the whispers came back, louder. I couldn't make out words, just the rhythm of them, like dozens of mouths murmuring at once. I stuffed towels into the wall gap and pushed the shelf back, slept with the lights on. But the next morning, the shelf had been moved, neatly placed across the room, and the towels were shredded. The door was open again, and something new was inside. A toy. An old wooden spinning top, worn smooth with use. I'd never owned it. I tried to convince myself maybe the landlord was playing some elaborate joke. I called him, demanding to know what was behind the wall. He sounded genuinely confused. Said there was no crawl space, no hidden room in that part of the unit. He even came to inspect it himself, and here's the weirdest part. When he arrived, the wall was solid again. No door, no seam, just painted drywall, like nothing had ever been touched. He gave me this wary look, like maybe I was losing it. After he left, I started recording audio at night. On the second night, the whispers turned into giggles, and a voice, raspy, childlike, clear as day, whispered, "Found you." I was losing sleep, jumping at every noise, and questioning my sanity. But that whisper, "Found you," was real. I replayed it 100 times. I sent it to a friend, asked him to clean up the audio. He sent it back with a note. This isn't just one voice. There are 3, layered on top of each other, all saying the same thing. That night, I decided to end it. I moved the shelf again, tore down the drywall where the door had been, and this time, it was there, clear as day, same wood, same dark space behind it, but something was different. Now the door was wide open. The spinning top was gone, replaced by something else, a Polaroid of me, sleeping in my bed, from a high angle, as if someone had taken it from the ceiling. I turned to run, but the light in my apartment shut off, plunging me into total darkness. I scrambled to my phone, turned on the flashlight, and pointed it toward the crawl space. There were footprints, small, dirty, barefoot prints leading out of the crawl space and across my floor to where I was standing. I heard it before I saw it, the sound of breathing, shallow, fast, right behind me. I spun around, light slicing through the dark, just empty space. But when I turned back toward the crawl space, something crawled out. I didn't get a full look, only pale limbs, unnaturally long fingers, a face that looked like a child, but stretched, distorted, almost like skin over a mask. It whispered again, only this time, it wasn't asking. It said, "You're mine now." I don't remember how I got out. One second I was backing away from that thing, flashlight flickering. The next I was in the stairwell, barefoot, shaking, screaming. My neighbor found me and called the police. I told them everything, even showed them the scratch marks, the torn drywall, the Polaroid I still had clenched in my fist. But when they searched the apartment, the door was gone again. Not boarded up, completely gone. No gap, no evidence I'd ever cut the wall. The photo? They claimed it was probably faked. One officer told me, off the record, "We've had calls from this unit before. People don't stay here long." I moved out the next morning. I hired a moving company. Didn't even go back inside myself. Left furniture, books, everything. The landlord said breaking the lease would cost me thousands. I said, "Keep the damn deposit." I'm somewhere new now, smaller, brighter. I don't hear whispers anymore. No doors where they don't belong. But I still sleep with the lights on. Still check the walls every day. And sometimes, when I walk by mirrors, I swear I see a small shape following behind me. Last week I got a package. No return address, no postage, just left at my front door. Inside was a single item, wrapped in a yellowed cloth, a wooden spinning top, and underneath it, a Polaroid of my new bedroom, taken while I was sleeping. My wife and I had our first child 3 months ago, a little girl named Lily. We live in a modest 2-bedroom house on the edge of town, surrounded by woods and silence. The kind of quiet that used to feel peaceful, until recently. We got a baby monitor the day we brought Lily home, one of those digital ones with audio and a video feed. It gave us peace of mind, until one night, around 2:30 a.m., I woke up to static coming from the monitor. That wasn't unusual. Old house, weak signal. What was unusual was the voice, soft, raspy, and definitely not my wife's. I froze in bed staring at the screen. The camera showed Lily asleep in her crib, but the voice kept talking, whispering things I couldn't quite make out, like a lullaby sung backwards. Then it said clearly, in a voice that made my skin crawl, "She's mine now." I ran into the nursery. The crib was empty. I tore through the nursery, screaming for Lily. My wife came running seconds later, bleary-eyed and terrified. When she saw the empty crib, she let out a sound I've never heard from a human being. Raw panic. We searched the entire house. Every room. Every closet. Nothing. Then we heard it. A soft cooing. Coming from the baby monitor, still lying on our nightstand. I rushed back, snatched it up. The video feed was glitchy, flickering with static, but I could see Lily, lying peacefully in her crib. I sprinted back to the nursery, and there she was, asleep, unharmed. No one had touched the windows. The doors were still locked. My wife swore Lily wasn't in the crib when we first looked. She swore on everything. I tried to laugh it off, blame exhaustion or sleepwalking, but that didn't explain the voice. And it didn't explain what happened the next night. This time, we stayed awake, watching the monitor. At 3:12 a.m., the screen went dark, just for a second, then it came back, and Lily wasn't alone. There was a woman in the room. Her back was to the camera, long black hair matted down her back, wearing what looked like a tattered nightgown. She was humming something, swaying side to side. Lily slept right through it. I jumped up, ready to grab the baseball bat I kept under the bed. But before I could move, the woman on the monitor turned her head toward the camera. Her face was wrong, blurred, but not from the signal. Like someone had smeared her features, leaving just a gaping mouth that moved with the humming. Then she whispered, "You should never have brought her here." I ran into the nursery again. The room was empty, except for one thing. On the floor, next to the crib, was an old-fashioned baby rattle, one we didn't own. We brought in a priest the next day. Neither of us were religious, but we were desperate. He walked through the house, said a few prayers, sprinkled holy water, claimed he felt a presence near the nursery, but nothing evil, just attached. He left us with a small wooden cross and some vague advice about setting boundaries. That night, we unplugged the monitor. At 3 a.m., we heard the lullaby again. This time, not through static or electronics. This time, in the hallway. We stepped out of our room slowly. The sound was faint, like someone humming just around the corner. We followed it, past the nursery, down the stairs. It was coming from the basement. I had never even opened the basement door at night. It always gave me the creeps. Unfinished concrete, old boiler, cobwebs. But now, it felt like something was calling to us. I opened the door and turned on the light. The humming stopped. Then, on the monitor screen we'd left on the nightstand, though unplugged, the image returned. It showed Lily's room, but Lily wasn't alone again. The woman was there. This time she was holding Lily, cradling her. We sprinted upstairs, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might explode. When we burst into the nursery, Lily was gone. The crib was overturned. The window was open, though we never opened it, not with a newborn. A cold breeze blew in, and on the windowsill was the rattle. Only this time it was broken in half. A note lay underneath it, written in smudged red crayon. "You were warned." The police launched a full investigation. No signs of forced entry. No fingerprints. Nothing on the cameras. They treated us like suspects at first. Standard procedure, they said. But I saw the looks, the suspicion. My wife didn't stop crying for days. I didn't sleep. I kept watching the monitor, hoping maybe, just maybe, she'd appear again. She never did. Then one night, exactly a week later, the monitor turned on by itself. Static at first, then the lullaby. Then, Lily. She was lying in the crib, wide awake, smiling, healthy, perfect. But something was wrong. Her eyes. They weren't her eyes. They were too dark, too empty, like something wearing her face. I ran to the room. The crib was still overturned. No sign of Lily, but the monitor kept showing her there. And then, the feed flickered again. A new face appeared, close up. Not Lily's, not the woman's. Mine, staring back at me, distorted and shaking. Then it whispered in a voice that sounded like both of us, speaking in unison. "She's home now. You're the visitor." Last night, I was jolted awake by the sound of Lily crying. Not from the monitor, from the nursery. I ran in, heart in my throat. The crib was back. Lily was inside, smiling, reaching for me. But when I picked her up, she leaned in close and whispered, in that same raspy voice, "You're not my daddy." I moved into a shared apartment during my sophomore year of college. Rent was high, and I couldn't afford to live alone. So when I saw a posting on campus, roommate needed, $300 per month, private room, no questions, I jumped on it. The guy's name was Alex, seemed quiet, polite, kept to himself. He didn't say much, but always paid rent on time and never made noise. Ideal roommate, right? But almost immediately, I started noticing weird things, like the fact that Alex never left the apartment. I mean, never. I'd leave for class at 8 a.m., come back at 10 p.m., and he'd be in the exact same spot, sitting on the couch, staring at the wall, no TV, no phone, no food, just sitting. Then there was the smell. Some days, it was like rotting meat coming from his room. Other days, it was metallic, like blood and rust. I thought about moving out, but then, one night, I saw something I can't ever forget. Alex wasn't sleeping. He was shedding. I'd gotten home late from a group project, tired and irritated. As I passed Alex's room, I noticed his door was slightly ajar, which was weird. He always kept it locked, always. There was a sound coming from inside, not music, not snoring, more like wet paper tearing, over and over. Quiet, rhythmic, deliberate. I should have just gone to my room. I really should have, but curiosity got the best of me. I pushed the door open just a little more, and what I saw didn't make sense. At first, I thought it was a trick of the light, but as my eyes adjusted, I realized Alex wasn't in bed. He was on the floor, crouched, completely naked, and his skin was peeling off in sheets. Not like a sunburn, like a costume. He was pulling long, thin layers from his back, revealing something dark and slick underneath, something that shimmered, almost wet. His spine looked elongated, his limbs too thin, his fingers longer than they were before. He stopped suddenly and turned his head, fast, like he heard me. But he didn't say anything, just stared at the door, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. I backed away slowly, heart hammering, until I was in my room, door locked, sitting in the corner with a baseball bat. The next morning, his door was shut. He was in the kitchen making eggs, like nothing had happened. I tried to act normal, but I couldn't stop looking at his arms. They were smoother now. No hair, no freckles. His tattoos were gone. That's when I realized this wasn't Alex, at least not anymore. I started doing research, looking up missing persons, urban legends, anything that could explain what I saw. I couldn't find anything concrete, just stories, myths, things about skinwalkers, shapeshifters, creatures that wear human bodies like clothes. But that's not the worst part. The worst part came when I finally got in touch with the original tenant, the guy who used to rent the room before me. I found him through a student forum. He'd dropped out the year before. No explanation. I messaged him. Hours later, I got a reply. "If you're living with Alex, get out." That's not Alex. He sent me one photo. It was a candid, taken from inside the apartment. Alex sitting on the couch, face slightly blurred, but unmistakably off, like the shape of his skull didn't match the skin. One hand in the frame looked too long, fingers curled inward like claws. I was going to leave that night, but when I came home, my key didn't work. I knocked. No answer. I texted. No reply. Then the door opened on its own, just an inch, and from the dark hallway, a voice. Alex's voice. Calm and slow, but not quite right. "Where were you today?" I didn't answer. I turned and ran, but he was already at the stairwell. Somehow, I don't remember getting to my car. I don't remember turning the ignition. All I remember is his face pressed against my window as I pulled away. And it wasn't a face anymore. It was sliding off. I didn't go back. I never even tried to get my stuff. My laptop, clothes, textbooks, left it all behind. I stayed with a friend across town and reported everything to the university. They said the apartment didn't belong to campus housing. It was privately owned. They had no record of anyone named Alex ever renting there. The landlord's number? Disconnected. I called the police and filed a report, described everything I saw. They chalked it up to stress, maybe a mental health episode. I was advised to talk to someone professionally. A few weeks later, I saw a new listing for the same apartment. Different name, same rent, same wording. $300 per month, private room. No questions, I flagged it, reported it. But a few days later, it was gone. Then I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. No subject, just one sentence. "You left your skin behind." Attached was a photo, my old bedroom. On the bed was a full-body human skin, folded neatly, like pajamas. A week ago, my friend, the one who let me crash at his place, went missing. I tried calling, texting, no answer. Yesterday, I got a knock on my door. It was him, smiling, calm, but something was off. His voice was slower, and his skin too smooth. He said, "You never did pay your half of the rent.